Hello, this is Jon Miller, the creator of The Rest of Everest. I think I can safely say that this show is, without a doubt, the most in-depth look into the entire experience of what it takes to climb Everest, as well as some other peaks throughout the Himalayas. But all of the events in this series are shown in chronological order, so if you're new to the show, please go all the way back to episode 000 and watch everything in order. That's truly the best way to enjoy it. Thanks.
This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 184, Off-Road Adventures.
Hey you.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest. I'm Jon Miller, joined once again with Brian Block. How you doing today, Brian?
Doing great. Thanks, John.
So this week we are going to continue on towards, what was the drop-off point? Where did you guys actually start hiking?
We start hiking from Askole.
Okay, so we're heading towards Askole. But the route to Askole is a little bit more primitive than the Karakoram Highway and obviously driving around Islamabad. So we're going to actually get off-road and we're going to get to see some more of the countryside, although not as much as Brian saw because a lot of it was done at night. But first, before we can do any of that, it's time to walk around Skardu and try to see the lay of the land and kind of get some materials, because there's always more little things you need to buy before you can climb a mountain.
Always.
All right, so let's head back up to Skardu. Here we go.
Try not to get run over here.
Trying not to get run over here. That's a good idea.
Well, it's amazing. There are no lines and there are no stoplights and there are no stop signs. It's basically skilled drivers and, motorcyclists and pedestrians all kind of melding into one.
Now, you are walking with a woman here. Who's the woman?
That was one of the participants on the trip. She actually met Fabrizio in Nepal and decided last minute to join this trip because she's kind of on the try of climbing all 14 8,000 meter peaks.
I heard there's an outdoor store here too, but I'm not sure where that would be.
I have to say it's very reminiscent of Nepal, but also not at the same time.
Well, yeah, in Tamil and everything, the roads are so narrow, it's one-car roads, but here it's 1.5-car roads, and there's 3 cars wide trying to drive.
Okay. This looks like a hardware
Yeah,
store.
we're actually in pursuit of a internet cafe that we had heard was in the neighborhood.
Actually, I do believe from editing this, you are in pursuit specifically of a sharpening stone or something.
She was looking for something, to work with ice axes and crampons because she'd just come from a 2-peak expedition and wanted to find something to kind of hone her stuff because she didn't have time to grab anything while she was in Nepal. And so we're going around, we're looking for hardware stores, electronics, everything else, and an internet cafe was our final end goal, as she needed to update her blog site.
Wow, smells like burnt popcorn. And diesel exhaust. Alright, let's make a break for it. Yes. You hear anything? Well, maybe he's taking a fingernail file. As I say, I don't know.
And it's amazing the amalgam of things you'll find in any number of these shops. He's got a file. He's got motor oil. He's got, hairstyling products for women. It's kind of like everything across the board.
No.
File has many terms.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be like file.
People file. Would you like?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he thought you were looking for like a file folder.
Metal file?
Yeah. It was not uncommon for them to send us to one place and that place to say, oh no, it's at this place, and send us right back to where we came from. And she's keeping her head covered, just trying to be, in unison with like the local traditions.
Respectful of the local custom.
Yeah. I mean, if you look around on the streets, you don't see any women out walking around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there'll be 10 or 50 floating around at base camp. Yeah,
And it's not really repressive up there. That's just the customs, and they are very much of the old ways.
Was alcohol available there?
Not officially, not at all within the country. But now it's getting a little more lenient. In Islamabad, there's a restaurant or two that you could actually buy it because it's close to the consulates. And so, of course, they had some expatriate stuff that was there. But it was kind of like black magic stuff. Actually, you asked for black diamond a lot of the times, and they would get you alcohol. And it was funny because most of it was smuggled in from China in these plastic bags. So you're not really sure if you're drinking antifreeze or vodka. It's kind of interesting.
Maybe there will be some good video, but this will give an idea of the...
This is great. You can help each other because I'm trying to shoot some video for this as well. So I'll see with your camera. I'll think, oh yeah, I should shoot
more. I was talking to Ben the other day, and we were talking about the fact that, like, last time he was here, he only shot 40 photos. Like, when he got home, he took like 48 photos.
You only take 40 photos.
I don't know.
Oh my god.
I take more than 40 photos now just going to the zoo with my kids.
Yeah, I know.
It is funny though, like, and maybe you've experienced this too, is that it almost has to become a conscious effort to, grab video and shoot, photos because you're like, oh, this is very familiar to something I was on last year. They're doing a call to prayer you can hear in the background. Yeah. Really cool. And 5 times a day, very early in the morning into late at night, very religious culture.
Yeah, I had my first opportunity to hear that firsthand. I was actually able to go to Istanbul a few months ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. The people that are doing the calling out, and it's very rudimentary equipment. These, they look like, loudspeakers that are a bullhorn almost, and these little small mounts and electrical cables hanging off of them that look very unsafe, but sounds awesome at night. It's really neat when you're in the area and you just hear this calling out.
As much time as you spend sitting in base camp, it's sometimes more ideal to have good people than really good climbers, because real good climbers that are assholes and don't like each other makes for a very unenjoyable trip. So,
Also, like side effects, I find.
Oh, and everywhere is a place to park as well.
Road/parking lot.
It's kind of amazing. But right now, you're basically getting to see the whole of Skardu from one end to the other.
Okay, so it's not as large as I thought in my head here. From looking at the drive-in, it's...
Yeah, there are sections like the outskirts,
this is
where...
downtown Skardu. This is downtown Skardu.
This is the main drag. Small town Iowa being in cahoots with this. Hey, look, other foreigners.
And now you were talking with her about how it's important to have a really good group as opposed to really good climbers.
Oh, yes. Well, I've found, and I'm sure you have too over the years, it's better to have a really great partner that you want to climb with. One of the local gear shops there. A great climber that you want to climb with, who maybe you don't succeed but have a good time, because a great climber with a bad attitude or that isn't a team player can ruin a trip really quick.
So you can stuff.
Yeah, it's the used things, probably stuff that disappeared from someone's barrel along the way, all these kinds of things. That's the unfortunate part, is there's a lot of resale gear there that you'll find, and some people just at the end of the expedition, rather than flying it home, will sell it off. But there are some nefarious porters that occasionally will get into some barrels, and that's why we lock everything while we're traveling. And it's frustrating because you don't want to put this air of mistrust out towards them, but at the same time, if you just show that we don't trust anyone at all, even our own team, and lock it all the time, well then it's a little easier to pass off. But yeah, they had new gear and everything else, but the prices were more expensive than in the States, even for used gears many times, because they knew that they had you in a position where, yeah, I need these down mittens.
Yeah, if you need it by this point, there's no other place you're going to get it.
That is right. This is the last stop.
Military? These are... Yes. Wow.
Snow machine. Holy.
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because you'd find gear from every country, the best of the best from China, Japan, Russia.
Nobody even flinches when the ball is.
It's amazing, the following of cricket over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, after having 12 people explain it to me in their best way, I still don't truly understand the game and how sometimes it takes a day and sometimes it takes 4 hours and sometimes it takes a week. But I'm very interested by it, and I think I'd like to play.
That's good. We got field hockey going on over here. Is that popular?
Yeah, very.
Huh.
Was this part of a school, do you think, or just a common area for people to? Is it a cricket pitch? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I mean, it's pitch, but it's just a large commons area. It's when I was there in 2007, we actually came, and it was not nearly this busy at any point because they had some irrigation issues, and so there was a lot of water down there, and it was almost just like a swamp area. And you'd see people playing cricket part of the day, and then all of a sudden a game of football, as they call it over there, or soccer would break out, in the afternoon. But this is the view from the hotel.
This was cool.
Yeah, they've just got a random drum circle going down there right outside the hotel. I was pretty excited. I'm a percussionist by, musical training, so.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm always excited, and that's what I'd get into their drum circles periodically at base camp and such, and just had a great time. But
This is the view from the hotel.
yeah, make a note of the river at this point, as at the end of the season it was well out of the banks with the flooding that they had.
Yeah, we'll see that in several months.
Yeah, it's impressive, but this was the benchmark for me, was coming back to the hotel and really seeing the difference was just unbelievable. Especially having survived many floods in Iowa.
What elevation do you think you're at here?
As I recall, we're at about 6,200 feet, I think is what it was.
Okay.
Because Askole ends up being about 8,300 feet.
Okay, so a couple thousand meters.
Yeah.
The river is really flowing. We got some heavy rain today, and they don't get a lot of rain, so not many places for it to go. So the river's quite full. A lot of times it looks like you can see most of it, most of the way across with sandbars and whatnot. Something else very cool up here that I haven't had the opportunity to go to yet. The fort, they call it. If I zoom in here, you can see it's a very cool little establishment up on the middle of that mountain. It's only about a half hour to hike to, I guess, once you get down into town. But originally it was established as someone's home up there, a large family home. So if you can imagine that vantage point, not that we don't have a good one.
I still haven't been there.
Pretty cool, huh? I think so. Now if I can just convince my wife we need to move here. And just like everywhere, kids having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes you miss the kids at home bad.
And of course the rebel kid throwing rocks at other kids. Bully. Don't jump. Loading the jeeps for departure to Askole.
These guys are very proud of their
Even covering
Jeeps.
them in plastic this time. Oh yeah.
It's a big money maker for them. They make as much or more than an entire group of porters will with just this drive in and out of town.
Really? Wow.
I mean, fuel is expensive. To buy a vehicle like that is very expensive for them over there. I mean, it might be $8,000 US.
Everything
Over there, that's a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
I think that at the time we were there, the exchange rate was like 88 rupees to one, and I could buy a, brand new DVD for 100 rupees.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so I see the expedition barrels. Did you guys bring all of that over, or are you utilizing barrels from a company out there, a local company, or is everything that we see stuff that you guys brought over?
A lot of the barrels migrated from Nepal, and then there are places in Pakistan that you can buy them, and I have 5 barrels that live there permanently
Okay.
in lockdown at one of the locations.
Great caution for whatever might be packed. I mean, although I guess anything that's semi-perishable probably would not be on this trip.
But is this everything that you guys had
Fragile.
in these vehicles?
In one Jeep?
No, not in one Jeep, but in this caravan that's going up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Everything we have goes in from here. I mean, there's nothing really to buy or procure other than Coca-Cola and maybe a candy bar if you're lucky at Askole.
So where do you do all the food shopping?
We come in with a lot of it, because we're migrating in from out of country, and there's things you bring that you especially want, but otherwise in Islamabad you'll pick up a lot of mainstays, and of course you're paying for a cook and everything else to be there, and so they'll bring in rice and flour and starches, and they'll be resupplied as we're on the trip.
Okay.
With people hiking in, so.
Looks like Tibet.
I kind of thought that too, and I've only seen Tibet in pictures, but I was like, the high plain, it's a high desert, but this is the fun part. We go ripping in on the paved part that lasts for all of about 12 minutes. And then it's about another 7 to 9 hours of Jeep riding, and you can see the precarious drop-off there, and it's constantly eroding. And just like the Karakoram Highway, as you're coming in, you can see the steep embankment on the other side of the road, the driver's side as they drive on the right over there, and mudslides will come through and wipe out the whole thing. And while I was on the bus ride back in 2007, we actually drove through a mudslide, and the driver, I was the only other person awake because I wanted to make sure he stayed awake, and we were driving through the night.
Right.
And he drove through, we hit this mudslide, and there were boulders, the size of the wheels, and all of a sudden we just, he just floored it, plowed through. That's just crazy things for me to be a part of. And he looks at me as he makes it through and just gives me the thumbs up, and I was like, yep. But it's amazing, and a lot of this is done by hand, and it's maintained by guys with. If they're lucky, they have a small tractor and pickaxes, and they go through and break up these boulders that periodically just roll down into the road.
Like these ones right here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you'll see these cross dissolves through this footage, and the landscape will change dramatically every time.
Yeah, it's impressive, how much it changes as you're going. And this is, I'm trying to remember how many kilometers it is, but it's not a terribly far drive. But there's a lot of situations where everyone gets out of the Jeep so that they can drive through a very technical section that might have glaciated ice sticking out or whatnot, or if there's the situation that happens all too often where there's Jeeps coming back from Askole, and then it's this fight about who has the right of way, because you might have to back up 3/4 of a mile, to find a place that's wide enough for 2 Jeeps to get by. Or what I've seen is they'll spend an hour and they'll dig out, a spot. But yeah, we stopped for a little lunch, and then it rapidly got dark. And here we're literally driving through a waterfall above us, and then about 2 feet deep water there on part of a glacier.
So you're actually on a glacier?
Yeah, it's amazing how far the glacier comes down. It's all covered by glacial moraine and till, but...
is it just the terminus of the glacier there, or is it still quite a...
Not even. I mean, we're well into it at this point. I mean, it's amazing. You see all this greenery growing on top of it, but there is a glacier that runs for miles down below where we're at.
Wow.
Underneath, I mean, it's like 4 to 6 to 10 feet underneath, and then, in many places we don't even know how deep it runs, but this is all kind of grown up over it.
So the road is constantly moving then?
Yes, and being maintained by these guys that just come out with pickaxes and try and do what they can to keep it moving.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I would never have guessed that.
That little tower, that tower that's there, it drops off about 1,500 feet to the left there. That's how wide the road is. In some instances, you're actually only 3 tires on the road.
Yeah, once again, the drive-in can be the most dangerous part of the entire trip.
Absolutely. And these guys are professionals, and they do it, on a weekly basis almost, but it is still quite precarious. And, I thought I was pretty brave and everything else, but I've never been able to fall asleep here. Also, it's very jarring, but I was sitting with our Sirdar on one of these trips, and I look over and I have this great photo of him, just like anybody else would be in a car on the highway, just neck back, mouth wide open, snoring.
Passed out.
Yeah.
Look at this road here. There's no way. Yeah. There's no way.
It drops off 1,000 feet off the right side. If you roll off, you just roll down, and there's like switchbacks cut into it. Many of which were like something like this. You'll have to pull up, back up.
And then you gotta back up. Yeah, it's bad when you have to back up. I've done several of those myself, but only a few times have I experienced something like that, like out in Utah.
Oh yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking. I think it's probably like riding on the back of a motorcycle, where when you're not in control, it feels like it's completely out of control. But yeah, it's pretty impressive to be in this area and see how it's cut out of there. And
the dramatic music too.
I love their music. It's the hardest part, I tried a couple of times to Shazam it, so I could see, who's this guy, but it doesn't really happen.
So I'm guessing you guys are stopped at the bottom of the switchbacks. You're looking back up towards the rest of your crew.
Yeah, this is the caravan coming down, and you can kind of see just how carved out of the side of the mountain it is. Doesn't do it justice in the dark, but this might be more digestible for most, because in the sun, I don't shoot a lot of video. I'm getting ready to jump out. There was I think in the in-between year, one of the in-between years before I was here, rock falls will happen as you're driving down. They'll get dislodged by a Jeep above, and there was actually a couple of climbers killed by rock fall that came down and hit a Jeep. And yeah, it's just, it's precarious, to say the least.
Coming to you live from Camp Jola.
What you made it fine. Camp Jola? Is that here?
We're at Jola already? Oh, wow.
Aspect of it.
I skipped ahead. Yes.
Anyway, coming to you live from Camp Jola. First camp on the hike in. We made it to Askole without any major complications. We did have a bit of a rock slide that hit the second and third Jeep of people that were traveling with us. Came down, scared the heck out of them, I guess, but yeah, not an ideal situation. Got through that, went through all the porter repacking. Everybody chooses up loads. We had a later start yesterday, about 11 a.m. Ended up getting into camp about 3:30, 2:30, 3.5 hours. Yeah, and so it's about 11-mile hike in, lots of rocky scree terrain, and some pretty good paved parts, essentially, from so many people passing over it. But yeah, glad to be here. Missing home a little bit, but thinking about the days and how fast they're going to go when we're out climbing shortly, hopefully. We're a couple of days ahead at least of the rest of our group, who had to stay back because they had trouble getting from Islamabad to Skardu in order to get on the Jeeps to Askole. So Fabrizio and the rest of that group, I think there's 5 or 6, including the liaison officer and a trekker. So it will be a full house once we get to where we're at. Anyway, I think that today's hike should be pretty easy. It's a little less distance, and so should be over in a couple 2.5 hours, I hope. It's 5:40 in the morning now. I've been up since about 4. I just wake up early here. It gets light about 4:15, and the porters are all hustle bustle getting ready to haul their loads up, which is nice. Yesterday I actually got in before any of our porters and waited about 3 hours to see my bags in order to get a sleeping bag or any of the stuff that I had in there. So but they're carrying 50, 60 pounds, and I'm carrying only 35, 40 pounds at the most, because I am carrying more stuff than I probably need to be, but just the same. Yeah, enjoying it here so far, but definitely miss the family. So that's it for now, I guess, and more from Camp Paiute, where we'll go up and we'll have a rest day there as well. Signing off.
Nice. Well, so how much time do you think has elapsed between the drive and this update here on camera?
Well, we made the drive in, camp that night. The next day we hiked to here, so it's really only one day, and I had a ton of footage of that, which I apparently hadn't shared with you prior. But yeah, it's an interesting first day hike. You hike out of Askole and you get right into it. You go right into the middle of nowhere immediately. And it's beautiful. There's waterfalls along the way, and There's a bit of a road that they have for emergency stuff that goes about another mile beyond where you start the hike. And then it's literally, single track trail or wide open desert, varying, as it goes. But it's impressive.
Well, we do have a lot of footage of it coming up in next week's episode, where we're really getting into it now. We're on the approach with Brian now, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's kind of a little bit hard to describe. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you, the viewers, have seen in the rest of Everest, this landscape looks very different. And I'm really excited to show it all to you, because editing this footage, I always thought the stuff that I've shot is really exotic looking, but some of the stuff Brian shot is really exotic looking. I mean, it's just, I guess it's one of those things you'll understand when you see it. So, yeah, thanks so much, Brian. Really looking forward to getting onto this trekking portion of the trip.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so we'll see all of you guys next week. Thanks so much. Bye. The Rest of Everest has been watched millions and millions of times all over the world since 2006, and it's all been free, but it's not free for me. If you're a fan, then let me know. You can like The Rest of Everest on Facebook, write a review on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, or even help me pay the bills with a financial donation. It doesn't take much, and quite literally, your donations make this show possible. They honestly pay for everything. You can make a one-time donation or set up a monthly contribution through my website. Help me out, and I'll give you a download of our film Everest: The Other Side, as well as some other goodies. Thanks as always to our announcer Marlon May from marlonmay.com, and to Wendy Wu for providing the show's theme song. Find her on iTunes or at wendywoo.com.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information about the show and upcoming expeditions, be sure to visit therestofeverest.com.